You're live.
All right, Madam Chairperson. The floor is yours to call the meeting to order.
All righty, let's start with the roll call then.
Crouch,
Present.
Hewson,
Present.
Walsh,
Present.
Quinn,
Here.
Yonkis,
Here.
Muth,
Here.
Greg,
Here.
Croom,
Here.
and Kruger. Mr. Kruger made me aware he would be absent today.
Righty. Approval of the agenda. Are there any changes?
I have no changes to the agenda.
All right.
I think Ms. Yonkis is going to speak.
Yes, sorry, it's really loud in here. I'd like to share with board members that for item 3.1, I'm going to request recusal from the discussion and vote as I have a personal relationship with one of the presenters.
Okay.
All righty.
Right.
Do we vote on that?
She will formally, yeah, we can do it when we get to the business agenda item so that she can vote for all other things.
Okay. So I motion to approve the agenda.
Support. Croom.
All right.
Alrighty, all in
Take a roll call
favor?
vote.
Yeah, just kidding, roll call vote.
All right, we'll get back into it. Crouch, yes.
Yeah.
Hewson,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
Yonkis,
Yeah.
Muth,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Croom.
Yes.
Alrighty. That's everybody. Then the approval of the September 1st board meeting minutes.
Yes, I'm not certain if people had an opportunity to review these, but a lot of what we discussed was actually, obviously, downtown business support activities. So today we are calling a special board meeting to obviously hear campaign ideas from various public relations firms. That was something that was sort of ideated in the last board meeting. And then there was also information, you know, you guys approved up to $3,000 in funding for various items that might be necessary, additional signage, Facebook ads, things of that nature. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any, but these are the minutes for your review and approval.
Croom will move approval.
Second that approval.
Okay.
Justin, Houston.
Great. I will conduct a roll call vote. Crouch,
Yes.
Hewson,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
Yonkis,
Yeah.
Muth,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Croom.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Alrighty, the treasurer's report.
So this is the same treasurer's report that you reviewed on September 1st, but I wanted, since we have not actually ended September yet, but I did just kind of want to point out a couple of fine points. Obviously, as you're aware, we are operating on a $76,170 budget this year. Thus far, you have allocated a little more than $7,000 in funds that has supported staff time, gone towards computer rental. In the last month, we also finalized a couple of major projects. So one was like artist activities in the downtown. There was a chalk artist that did things throughout the downtown area, and then a muralist in Valley Court Park. We continue to print various signage as it's necessary. We have those new A-frame signs that we purchased that we're continuing to put, like, you know, stay safe to stay open campaign information in. And we also obviously finished the downtown business right-of-way project where we allowed businesses to kind of place things outside for free, whether that was things, you know, whether it was items that they wanted for sale or would just wanted to use it for general promotion. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. As a reminder of the Downtown Development Authority funds that were provided to us, we have approximately $15,000 remaining. So I think that as we listen to these public relation firm campaign ideas, we can bear in mind that, you know, I think we initially talked about $10,000 being allocated towards those activities. So does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Alrighty. Consideration to limit public comment to 2 minutes per individual.
Yes. So I know we've had many Zoom meetings. I'm sorry, I haven't seen all of you in person in a while, but as you're all very aware at this time, due to COVID, the city attorney's office recommends that all boards and commissions consider you know, having all individuals that wish to make public comment limit those comments to 2 minutes. This is really just because we are in a Zoom format, and so, you know, we're trying to be as effective as we can with time. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, you could consider a motion.
I will motion to limit 2 minutes for public comment per person.
Support.
Okay. I will take a roll call vote then. Crouch,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
Yonkis,
Yes.
Muth,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Croom.
Yes.
Okay, Madam Chairperson, there are 4 attendees here. They are all related to the public relations firm, but as they are present, we still need to formally open this up for public comment in case they want to speak before the board outside of their formal presentation.
Okay. So is there anybody on the line for public comment?
All 4 of the public relations firms are.
Oh, we have to go through them, is what you're saying? Got it.
So if you'd like, I can just open it up to each of the individuals. So that's what you'd like me to do.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you want to read the instructions, Chanel?
Oh, yeah, hold on.
So we just plan to have them speak later also?
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Correct. Yeah. My assumption is they'll all just pass during public comment.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. We will now move on to public comment. Each caller in the queue will have 2 minutes to address the board. Callers will be identified by the last 3 digits of their phone number. When called on, you will be unmuted. At the end of the 2 minutes, the secretary will share that the 2 minutes has passed and they will be placed back on mute. If you do not wish to speak, please indicate so by saying pass. The following is not a requirement, but it helps the clerk. If you choose to speak, please clearly state your name and business affiliation or address before addressing the board.
Great. Thank you. So everyone has logged in with a Zoom account, so I'm actually going to save each of your names. And again, I believe that all of you are affiliated with public relations firms, but if you do have anything that you would like to say, you do have 2 minutes to speak. If not, you can simply indicate by saying pass. And I will unmute you now. So Hillary, if you have anything to say, you can address the board for 2 minutes.
I will pass. Thank you.
And Joel, I have unmuted you. You have 2 minutes.
I will pass.
And Kate, you are now unmuted for 2 minutes.
No public comment.
And Kayla, you now have 2 minutes to address the board.
I will pass too.
Okay. Madam Chairperson, that concludes our public comment.
All righty, then on to 3-1. We have to take a vote to recuse Audrey.
Yes,
that
that's
correct?
correct. So we need to entertain a motion to recuse Audrey, if there is a motion and a second.
I will make a motion to recuse Audrey.
Support.
Seconds.
Okay, and a roll call vote. Crouch,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
Yonkis. Well, I'm sorry, she can't vote. Forgive me. Muth,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Croom.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes. Okay, so we can now move into item 3.1. I know that you've received a couple of correspondences with me, but before you today, you do have two public relations firms. You have both Piper and Gold and Bloh Creative Partners. They have each been requested to share information with you for approximately 5 minutes. And then I'm going to conduct a 5-minute Q&A or kind of help lead that. So each of them are going to present with you, and then immediately following you can answer any questions that you have. Again, if the board feels inclined, at the end of the presentations, if someone did want to make a motion to enter into a contract agreement with one of the firms, that would be excellent. I do have one thing that I wanted everybody to bear in mind. If you do not decide to enter into or make a motion to vote for a contract agreement at this meeting, then obviously we will entertain that for the next meeting. The one thing I want to point out is that we will have new counsel for the next meeting. So, you know, just bear that in mind with contract time. So it might take I have not worked yet with Foster Swift, but just kind of bear that in mind that either we're going to approve under one city attorney or under another. So I just kind of wanted to make everybody aware of that. Okay. And with that, I am going to open the floor to Piper and Gold, and I am going to promote them. So if everybody can just bear with me.
Okay, I think I am promoted. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay with you, Amy.
Absolutely. It is all you. So I will stop my share, and it is all you, Kate.
Okay, so Amy, if you could just confirm that you guys can see this.
I can see that. Could I have thumbs up or thumbs down from board members? We're good? Great. I think you're good.
All right, so let the 5-minute timer begin.
All right.
Thanks so much for having us today. I'm Kate Snyder with Piper and Gold Public Relations, and Hillary Edwards from P&G is also with us today. We've had the privilege of working in the past with you on a couple of different things, and we wanted to share some ideas about how to help support the businesses downtown. So let's get right into it. This is what we're thinking. The existing Together We Will Stay Safe to Stay Open campaign is strong. And by leveraging the MSU brand power, we add credibility to the messages. And we also, frankly, add a level of resources, access, and outreach that wouldn't otherwise be available to us. So as it relates to what comes next, we think that building off the work already done to inspire a sense of responsibility within people is a starting point, and staying consistent within the existing work that's been done is going to help us leverage the significant dollars you've already invested as a whole into efforts, and also lend a level of credibility. In addition to just leveraging the MSU brand, we also have with this Dr. Stanley, who brings a level of scientific credibility as an infectious disease specialist. And then frankly, with Mayor Aaron Stevens acting as a voice and face, we're able to buck some of that mayoral bureaucratic stereotype. His age makes him more relatable to the student population, and he has good delivery. So we think that what's already happening is strong, and we recommend building off of this. So here's the thing that I know you probably don't want to have to hear. And I get it. This is your livelihood. I'm a small business owner. I understand the weight on your shoulders. And while yes, this is your livelihood, it is also so much more. It is what you put of yourselves into the business. It's your identities. It's so inextricably linked with who you are, and owning a business is so deeply personal. And so it's why I wish I didn't have to say to you that if downtown East Lansing isn't safe, we can't drive people to downtown East Lansing. So in order to be able to push people to the businesses and to support downtown East Lansing businesses, we have to understand if people are safer before we can make them feel safer, which means we need data. And so we need to not only be much more aggressive within that existing campaign and encouraging and enforcing safe behaviors, but we also need to be able to prove that it's working. And how do we prove that? So right now we've got a media narrative that cases are rising. We've seen media coverage of the Greek houses and apartment complexes being quarantined, and it is really tempting to want to like brush this under the rug or to not have to talk about this health news. But instead, I think that we need to understand it and help others to do the same. Frankly, we need to applaud it. We need to show East Lansing residents and visitors and the students that these actions are making downtown East Lansing safer. We need to understand the context and help them understand the context. So from a campaign standpoint, we recommend centering messaging and content around supporting these actions and not shying away from talking about them as individual businesses and as downtown East Lansing to help people understand how it's going to make people safer in the long run, targeting residents and visitors over the age of 25. And then we also need to highlight individual businesses and what you're doing for your safety practices. We have this inclination to think that if we don't talk about something that we don't want to have to talk about, it'll go away, or it's yucky, and that by saying it, it'll make people think of it. But we have to tell them what we're doing to make people safer. And so there's data that shows that even in scary situations, the more you talk about it, the safer they'll feel. So we think that through the campaign, we need to highlight what individual businesses and downtown EL are doing from safety standards. And we need to be able to substantiate the data. So we must get data that tells us if the perceptions are true or not. We have an idea of how the mask ambassadors could help with that in a data collection that they could be doing to show us what the mask rate is during high traffic times, and if that's improving, which if that's the case, we talk about it, and if it's not, we find solutions. And then we think we need to appeal to people's sense of nostalgia. There's some fascinating research about COVID-19 that the thing that's driving behavioral change is fear. And in this sense, we want to help people understand the consequences of their actions and use nostalgia, but a sense of losing the things they love to help drive action. So to highlight individual businesses and to bring about that sense of nostalgia, to instill within people, honestly, a sense of fear that if you don't safely support your local businesses, they will not be here. And to use that, it's called functional fear, that functional fear of loss, to help people understand why they need to support businesses. And for students, we need to use that functional fear to help them understand their consequences of their actions. And that if you continue to defy behaviors or don't follow the guidelines, which unfortunately data is showing is starting to happen and has been happening, then you're not going to be able to go to your favorite places in the fall. They're not going to be here for you. So using a sense of functional fear throughout campaign messaging to drive change. And then the last thing is we have to tell stories. We think that media relations actually needs to be a big component of this campaign, potentially even bigger than social media, because you just can't tell the complicated story of the impact of COVID, of what we're doing to make people safer, and of what we need people to do to help with that through a little tiny social media post. And so working with local media to tell the stories of things that are coming and that are built for a pandemic, of things that have happened, and of the individual businesses, we think needs to be a really big component of this campaign so that people can get more to the story and they can see the human side of things. So that was already longer than 5 minutes. I'm so sorry.
All right, it was 6 minutes, 30 seconds. I'll give Blum 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Race through that for you, but I'm happy to go more in depth into what that would look like. But those are the general concepts that we think the foundation of the campaign needs to rely upon. Questions I can answer for you.
Are we going to defer questions till after the next presentation?
Nope, we were going to do Q&A after each one, Jim. And then I think both groups are willing to maybe stay on if there are any final questions.
I do have a question. I think safety protocols that have been working so far are going to change pretty dramatically with the seasonal change because of the temperatures. So we have a lot of, especially our food service restaurants that are relying on takeaway, which is going to become more complicated with slippery roads, and also expanded outside dining. So I know that Adam has got some fun things planned city-wise with the little huts and other kind of, exciting sort of things. But I was wondering, your pictures obviously were of the summer, and so going into winter, it's going to look a little bit different. And I just kind of wondered if you had a concise way of summarizing that.
Yeah, I really think that in things like the winter market and helping Michiganders to embrace winter, it's not going to be just downtown East Lansing that's talking about embracing winter in Michigan. Everyone's going to need it. And so that's where I really think the storytelling component comes in. Yes, there are things that can be done on social media that can help amplify, but to tell these stories of how new opportunities, new experiences are being created specifically within a pandemic situation, and understanding how some of these ideas of like the winter market inspired, but COVID retooled versions of the Campus Martius huts are being done, like that's really hard to do in a social post. And that's the kind of stuff that I think really lends itself to traditional media relations. And just for those of you that I'm being too jargony, it's news coverage. It's basically partnering with news organizations to come out and give them previews, to do stories, to present the information by a third party, not necessarily driven out by downtown East Lansing, but on, Lansing State Journal, MLive, and other local and regional news outlets to tell these bigger, broader stories about sort of like the shifts in how COVID is impacting local businesses and takeout, and the loss of patio dining and the impact that that's going to have on local businesses, and what you, as someone who cares about continuing to have your favorite places in East Lansing be here, can do about it. Did that answer your question, Jesse?
Yes, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you also, by happenstance, answered my question. We have a limited budget, as I think you're aware, you have just seen. And so it's a challenge to do a media buy. And so I think you've accurately articulated one strategy that might be used in terms of harvesting news organizations with sort of spoon-fed stories and content, positive content that will hopefully elicit, positive coverage from those outlets. So that's good. Would you anticipate any other media coverage? I'm thinking it might be beyond our financial means to do anything else. Like print ads or.
I agree with you that within the budget, media buys, in my opinion, are not the best utilization of the dollars. I do think social media is a different story because you can purchase at a different cost level and scale. But one of the things that I do really strongly believe is that as we're balancing this functional fear and helping people understand the consequences that will lead them to behavioral change, with how that can have a positive impact on our community and the businesses that are driving positive change, and frankly, what the city is planning to drive positive change. That kind of stuff just doesn't fit in social media. The attention span isn't there. The space isn't there. It's not the right storytelling medium. There are some things we can do there with video and beautiful photography and things like that. I'm not saying abandon it, but I really do believe that media is going to be a powerful vehicle for success. And then you can leverage that on social media. So if you have a broader audience on social media, that's where you share the articles and maybe put $100 or $200 behind boosting a great piece of news coverage that basically tells the story of how East Lansing is transforming to be a safer space where people can experience things within a pandemic built environment. And you know, those concepts are just so complicated that you do need 600, 800, 1,000 words to explain them. That's why I feel so strongly about media relations and about, you know, working with local press to be able to tell those stories in an ongoing way. It's got to be about every time something is happening. And there's also got to be a strategy that I didn't put in here for time's sake, but there does have to be a strategy about mitigating the negative news coverage, and it's not denying it. You know, it really is about understanding it, owning it, using a traditional crisis model of response that includes restitution and talking about like what are the changes that are being made in response to that, so that as if people's faith and safety is undermined, we're being very proactive in rebuilding that. And that we're not just being mum and hoping that like it'll go away. It has to be a proactive, very intentional. We have to be willing to talk about the bad with the good, because that will actually make people feel better to know that you're not just ignoring the bad. There is bad, and that sucks. But by talking about it, we give businesses the opportunity to say, and this is what we're doing. And we don't love it either. So let's all fix it together, instead of just like, we can't talk about that. We don't want to draw attention to it. So I think that has to be a critical part of the strategy.
Okay, thank you. I'll save other questions till after I hear the next one.
We are coming up on our 5 minutes. Is there anyone else that would like to ask questions now? Or are we ready to move on?
I just have a quick one. I mean, you mentioned data in a lot of this, and as a board, we've talked a lot about access to data. Are we confident, and are you confident that maybe there are data sources that can be trusted to market out to the public, that, you know, that other news outlets or news outlets will not necessarily be able to, you know, debunk quickly, or will make it look bad as if the city's, you know, not telling the truth about certain statistics? I just want to make sure we have that available quickly and easily and readily. We won't probably be able to provide for those stats, so I assume we'd utilize some of the city and pieces like that. My question would just be, do you know where to get that numbers? Do you trust those numbers? And would that be something you'd be willing to expand on?
Yeah, so I think that right now, I know that the city's already collaborating with the health department. And I think that more and more the narrative in the public is that the health department's data is currently the most reliable data. So I think that it's also the most dramatic data. So I think that in using health department data, because people trust it, that's part of where we have to give people context of the data and help them understand the story behind the data, and make sure that we're working closely with the health department so that we don't have any contradictory statements in the press, or we don't have anything that looks like we're not in lockstep with them. There is collaboration, and I think that there's power in people understanding that there's collaboration. So I think health department data is good, but I think we need some independent data collection to supplement that, that goes beyond the health department data. So some of the strategies that we kind of brainstormed as a part of this was having mask ambassadors keep a tally of how many people they're seeing during high traffic times, what percentage of those people are wearing masks, seeing if that changes up or down over time, because perception is reality. So if people believe that right now downtown East Lansing is full of nothing but students and none of them are wearing masks, and we say, but that's not the case, but we don't have anything to back up that statement, then it's just, then people are going to believe what they believe. But if we can say, you know, we have mask ambassadors that are collecting data during high traffic times. During high traffic times, we're seeing that 96% of people are wearing masks, that 98% of people approached about wearing masks, add masks. Then you can communicate the safety story, and we can communicate our progress toward 100% to help. There's some demographic data that shows that the East Lansing area and the surrounding areas fall within the demographic category that generally supports universal masking. And so whether or not that is in alignment with your personal preferences or beliefs, the demographic for the most part supports universal masking. So the more that we can communicate messages and movement toward that, the more we can dispel misperceptions. But because that data doesn't exist, I think we have to think about easy ways that we can collect it. It may not be statistically significant, but it's better than nothing. And so thinking about things like that, ways that the businesses themselves can support in data collection, whether that's a simple way of reporting or even supplementing some of that data with anecdotal stories of people saying like, yes, 100% of our customers are wearing masks and things like that, I think are some of the ways that we can be consistent with health department data, but also supplement that to help people understand the full story. But we also can't, I mean, there's nothing we can do about negative data. And so if the mask ambassadors find that 30% of people are wearing masks, okay, well, now we need to look at programmatic solutions. That goes beyond a communications issue because we can't, if we communicate one thing and people have a different experience, you all know, right? Like in customer service, that's going to be a hell of a lot harder to repair than just getting their attention in the first place. So by having the data, we can figure out what the appropriate next steps are.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? And if not, we can move on to the next presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if somebody from P&G wouldn't mind sticking around for a couple more minutes, that would be great.
Yeah, we'll hang out.
Great, thanks. Okay. So I have now promoted our Blum creative team. You should be able to see them. And if you guys would like to screen share, you can certainly do that. The last firm went closer to 7 minutes, so I'm gonna give you a little more time as well. And obviously, the floor is yours and the board will interact with you, so.
Cool. All right, let me just get the PowerPoint pulled up. Can everyone see that okay? Hear me okay? Yep. All right, so my name is Joel Beaker. I'm here on behalf of Bloh Creative Partners. I also have Tim, our creative director, and Kayla, our digital specialist, with me as well. Throughout the presentation, I'm just going to go over some concept strategies as well as channels to put those strategies out, and then kind of give us a little background about our company. So diving right in, the objectives for this campaign, we really want to focus on bringing awareness and traffic, but in a safe way, to the downtown East Lansing businesses. I think the previous campaign that you guys did was really well, and working with Michigan State was awesome, but I think it was a lot more informative on the measures taking place and getting people to wear masks and keeping them up to date on the process. I think this next campaign, we believe that it should really be focusing on getting people to these businesses. Businesses are suffering, people aren't buying things, and that's what downtown East Lansing needs right now. So to complete these objectives, we think a strategy focusing on that community aspect is really important. Similar to the Spartan community, how people associate with that for the rest of their lives. It's a community that they all feel engaged in and that they want to give back to. And we believe that downtown East Lansing is that for all of East Lansing as well as Michigan State. It should be a hub, a center for the community, and people should be caring about it. And we want to convey our messaging in that aspect so that people know, even the students that live here part-time, you know, their community is our community, and together we should all be giving back and trying to support these businesses at this time. So to convey this messaging, we think social media is one of the best things to leverage at this point, given the circumstances. One thing on social media we think would be very beneficial are the social ads. We already brainstormed some really great ideas that I'm really excited about that I think would work really well for the businesses, using that messaging concept of community and unity and getting people to care about the downtown East Lansing area. Social ads are one of the most beneficial ways to go about social media because it's going to show the ads to people who might not know about your business, who might not know that East Lansing is suffering at this moment. You can get it out in front of those people that really care about your product, but might not know about it. And then we also believe doing some type of hashtag campaign. We already brainstormed some great hashtags as well last week that I love, and I think that would be really well for the city. And then combining this with a call to action would incentivize people to go down and shop at these businesses. So this does two things. One, it gets people to actually go down and buy products at the businesses. And then two, it gets them to promote those products and services on their own social media so that they are essentially free marketing. So it's a win-win kind of for both ways. And we have a lot of ideas around this. And I think they would be very beneficial for the businesses. And then our third idea for social media would be kind of like a story or live video takeover. So obviously there would be guidelines and policies of what you can do, what you can show. And then maybe there would be an open spot for a certain amount of businesses. And they get to go on live video for however many minutes. They get to take over the story for a day, for a morning, and they get to showcase their items, showcase their products. And this shows their business to a huge crowd of people that, you know, aren't maybe following them on social media, don't know about them. It's exposing to them to a huge audience. And then as far as the website is concerned, we believe that the business directory is really nice. It has all the information, but we think updating it with more COVID specific info would be very beneficial. So like online sales, curbside, appointments, and even going as far to add a filter on that directory so that say someone they're quarantined, they have to stay home, you know, for a couple weeks. They can go directly to this directory and filter by all East Lansing businesses that are doing delivery right now or doing curbside or whatnot. And they can easily have access to all those businesses right there. And then as far as the text campaign, we would use it in conjunction with the website and social media campaigns that we are going to do. However, it might not be in your best interest to really push the text campaign at this moment, just because of the election coming up and all the COVID spam that is out there. It actually might deter people from going downtown to shop at these businesses. But that is definitely something to consider moving forward. And then just a little bit about our team. So we got Jeff. He is our owner and president, started the company about 25 years ago or so. We have Patty, the operations traffic manager. And then it's broken down into two internal teams. So we have our design team, which is comprised of Tim, our creative director, Owen, our art director, and Carly, our graphic designer. And then the other team is the digital team who employs these creative graphics or whatnot that they make, which is Catherine, the copywriter, digital specialist, Kayla, digital specialist, and then myself, the digital specialist. And then we also have Nicole, who is our account executive, who would be the point of contact if we were to go forward with this. So for those of you who don't know, Bloom Creative Partners, we have been in the East Lansing community for the past 25 years. And we have really seen it change and grow, and we would absolutely love to be a part of the future of that. We have been in this community, so we have seen students, we understand how they act. Although we might not be in downtown per se, we're over in Brookfield Plaza. It is still right next to campus. We understand this community and it's in our blood, and East Lansing, we really want to see it excel. And we have experience with this. We actually just finished working on a project. We are like finishing it up right now. We're working with the Delhi Downtown Development Authority and working with the whole area businesses. And we saw some really great results. And a lot of the businesses are doing really well in Holt right now. And it was a great experience to be able to just work with that whole city and kind of transform it, very similar to what we would be doing here. And then, yeah, like I said, we've been in the East Lansing community past 25 years. We really want to see the future of the city grow, and we want it to last and these businesses to thrive. And even more so than just this campaign, you know, for years to come, we would be a partner to be able to grow the city into something amazing. And then just some examples of our previous social media work. We did these for the Holt Farmers Market this past summer. Some kind of punny, funny materials, you know, very lighthearted and kind of happy. And they did really well. They had the best turnout ever at Holt Farmers Market. Here's some other examples. We work with the Greater Lansing Food Bank, Sparrow Mac, and then Holt Now, which would kind of be similar to, you know, the local aspect, but more of a community unity focus with this campaign that we're thinking. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Are there any questions?
Hi, Joel. This is Jim Croom. Can you speak to how your proposed campaign, if you will speak to and involve and bring downtown folks outside the whatever student demographic we have? In other words, permanent residents, folks over the 24-year-old age bracket.
Yeah. So we definitely think, you know, the hashtag campaign that would probably appeal to the younger demographic. The great thing about social ads is we can target specific groups and ages of people. And we even can go as far as to make different graphics, different copy, different content to target those specific age demographics. And then through the social platforms, it'll allow us to specifically target this age group with this specific content that they are going to relate to. And then we can do the same thing for the younger demographic, for the students, for the younger kids living here. We can do it for the older demographic. Social media is one of the best tools out there that we should be using, especially because of everything going on right now. It is truly, I think, one of the best ways to go about this.
Okay, thanks.
Are there other questions for Bloh?
Yeah, this is Justin. Just wanted to kind of get your feeling. You mentioned in the beginning, you know, how the current campaign joint with MSU is focused more on masks and, you know, tactics of, you know, how we are safe and kind of keeping updates on that. Can you speak to how maybe the campaign might address those similar concerns, maybe to the demographic that Jim was just mentioning, you know, who are concerned about coming out of their homes to go shopping?
Yeah.
And maybe speak to the awareness being one piece of it, but then maybe the awareness and then those who maybe came downtown last year that are staying in their homes now. How might this ad campaign, or how might you approach that with your campaign?
Yeah, so I think it is all with the content and the graphics and how that message is displayed. I was talking about, you know, the community unity aspect. I think the addressing that, you know, the measures that are going on and the safety aspect is a big part of that as well. But I think that's what makes it a community, you know, being upfront with them and telling them what's going on and being open with them. And I think if, you know, they see that we're doing everything we can to keep everyone safe. The city has these measures in place. People are required to wear masks. If we convey that in a message, I think that they will resonate with that and realize, you know, oh, maybe it is okay. We should be supporting these businesses. I think it's really just how the content and graphic is specifically created for that age demo group. I just think really targeting that and targeting those people in the social media, you know, on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, and really conveying that it is a safe place. You know, this is what's going on. These are the measures that are in place, but this is a community and we need to be supporting these people and these businesses at this time. And then, did that kind of answer? And then you had another part to the question?
No, I think that that covered kind of the piece that I was looking for. Just like I said, clarity on, you know, how the campaign might address some of the concerns people have on that without, you know, obviously we have the other campaign out there that's continuing to gain momentum and people are noticing it. But you are correct that, you know, our goal is to get people shopping again, not necessarily just for pure awareness of, you know, what the practices are.
Yeah.
But I do think that that's an important barrier to recognize. So it seems like you answered that question. If somebody else has follow-up questions, then I'll open it up to them.
Yeah, and just another note on that, you know, I don't think we're going to push away, you know, the mask aspect and the safety aspect. It's definitely going to be included and definitely going to show to people, you know, that we are doing what we can to keep you safe and there are measures in place, but we need your help at this time, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Are there other questions for Bloh?
I think I'm good.
And would the board like me to just open up comment for everyone? I can re-promote Piper and Gold. Does anyone have any other remaining questions for perhaps both groups, or are we comfortable?
My question would kind of be for both groups. I think one of my concerns about locking into one media strategy or one advertising strategy is that the situation can pivot quickly. We went from having, you know, double-digit new cases to quadruple-digit new cases in like 4 days time. And so the speed of reaction that's needed to adapt to that is kind of unprecedented. And will definitely be a part, you know, I try not to use too many personal anecdotes from my business, but the first 2 weeks of this month were the busiest I've had probably since before the very early days of COVID when people were coming back out. And then as soon as the news started breaking about the just escalating number of positive cases, it's been absolutely echoingly dead for the last week and a half. So a campaign will need to kind of encompass pretty dramatic pivots as part of it. I don't know if both of you guys want to, I'm not sure if that can have a short answer, but if you have a short answer to speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll comment real quick. Basically, I think the strategies that we're offering, you know, I think they take into the fact of the future. If, you know, a potential lockdown or people can't go shopping, you know, social media is out there completely virtual. We can do it completely without, you know, talking to people face to face. I think the strategies that we have that we're offering can definitely be adapted to that future, whatever it may look like.
This is the area where I really think that by highlighting individual businesses and their perspectives and using those to supplement the data and using anecdotal perspectives to supplement the data allows for a level of adaptability within authenticity. And this is where I think that uncomfortable you know, like we want every campaign to be like rainbows and unicorns and sunshine and yes. But like that's not where people are right now. That's not where heads are. That's not where hearts are. And I think that's why that functional fear concept, which I can send Amy some additional research on that you can look at just in general, because it might be really helpful. Like it makes me sick to my stomach to be like, I think we need to make people afraid. But we need to keep people safe. And if things get worse, we will have to pivot the strategies to be able to do that. And so whether that's communicated through social media, whether that's communicated through traditional media, whether the construction alert system becomes a general alert system and it's communicated through that system, whether it's communicated through the website, whatever the vehicle is, the message has to be adaptable and it has to be rooted in data and authenticity. Because right now, like you said, things are moving so quickly that even just in the time that we originally started talking about this presentation, we saw the closure of 30 Greek and large housing units. We've seen changes at the health department level. And by helping people understand what that means and focusing on being open and authentic and adding context to the negative story, we can create not only safer behaviors, but then also an understanding of the consequences of unsafe behaviors and the ways that the businesses are working to keep them safer, to help motivate them to come out. So I do think that it really comes down to messaging and being adaptable and data-driven in the messaging and supplementing that with the human story side of things, regardless of the medium through which it's delivered. Did that answer the question?
It did. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Are there any other questions of these groups? And if there are not, then what I will do is move them back to attendees, and then the board will simply have further discussion.
I'm good, Amy. Thanks for setting this up. I appreciated both of the presentations very much.
All right. Thank you very much to both Bloh Creative Partners and Piper and Gold. On a personal level, I really appreciate all of your thought and your insight and discussions that you've had with the board, preparatory information you've done. We really appreciate it from staff and a board perspective. So thank you. All right.
Yeah, thank you for giving us this opportunity, Amy.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Okay. So I will turn the meeting back over to the chairperson for further discussion while I work on some admin rights over here.
Alrighty. Does anybody want to start out with any opinions on what we heard what we heard and kind of how anybody's feeling?
I wouldn't mind hearing from like the actual business owners on our board in terms of sort of, the media campaign versus social media. I guess I'm probably using the wrong words, but just the weight there and how you all feel we can be most effective, or would it be a sort of a plurality? Because I thought I heard different emphases from the two different firms in those areas, and both firms made good points on each of those areas. So I'm just curious about, we all want the biggest impact. So anybody have any views on that?
This is Tom. I can start out with that. I had missed the meeting where we had voted on this. If I had been there, I'm sorry, I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
If I had been there, I would have voted against this media buy or this PR buy. I think that we are looking at a situation where from multiple different vectors, we have, Michigan State, the county, even the city to a certain degree, discouraging people from coming downtown. On my way into work this morning, I saw a billboard, I think it was from Eagle or DHHS, it had a group of people sitting around outside at a table at a restaurant, discouraging them from patronizing that restaurant. I feel that any ad buy or any campaign at this point would not have a positive return on investment. I would advocate hunkering down and waiting until the situation gets better, when we don't have quarantines going on, when we don't have mandatory houses being shut down, to focus our media at that point. As a business owner, I would not support doing any ad buys at this point. That's my opinion.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, so I'm always hopeful that, and both firms talked about pivoting and the fluid nature of the situation we find ourselves in. I'm always hopeful that if more resources, I want to spend them wisely, but if more resources are needed, that we'll find them at a later point. So I have a little discomfort over sort of just not doing anything. I feel like that would be leaving the businesses hanging. And so I think that through thoughtful media approaches, we could improve the situation for businesses now. And I'm also thinking about the lead time. There's lead time in any endeavor that one undertakes. And so we will have I don't know, it's not going to be that long a lead time, I suppose, on this campaign. But I would hope that either from the DDA or from other sources that if we needed to fund this and then fund a follow-on more towards the holidays, and when the situation changes, that we could do that. So that's kind of my reaction. But I appreciate your viewpoint and honesty.
Yeah, and I certainly, as a business owner, I certainly don't want to leave businesses hanging either. I just, with what we're facing right now, I just do not see this, having any impact. I just don't. We can talk about trying to encourage, the over 25 demographic to come downtown, but the reality of the situation is the vast majority of us rely on student traffic coming in. And that traffic is being told explicitly, stay in your house. And I'm not debating that whatsoever, but that's the reality of the situation, is that the vast majority of our customer base is being told not to come down here. And that's what we're up against. And that's my concern. And, to your point about leaving the businesses hanging, I definitely feel that. One thing that I feel like we haven't really explored, and again, I apologize, I've been kind of out of the loop in the last month or so. When Michigan State turned everybody off campus, we had to pivot 340 degrees or something to figure out where we were. But Piper and Gold brought up the very important point, the very salient point of nostalgia. And this idea that, this is Michigan State, this is downtown East Lansing, every year in the fall, this year accepted, people come down here from all over the country for homecoming, to relive college. And I feel that, if we're talking about, if we want to spend some money, I feel like the better approach would be some sort of capital campaign to reach out to alumni, to reach out to the Michigan State community. There's 600,000 Michigan State alums in the world, and say, your downtown needs you. This is where you grew up in college. Please help us. I'm not saying that is the best approach, but I feel like something like that would be a far better use of funds than, just advertising people to come downtown when everybody else is saying don't.
I'll jump in because I had similar concerns in the previous meeting about I've had concerns about doing an ad spend on PR marketing right now. While we've been talking about, I think y'all understood that. I wanted to hear what they had to say to see if they had any decent ideas, any life-changing things that none of us had thought about. And I completely understand where Tom is coming from. I also think that it's like I've said before, it's like a catch-22. I'm not debating whether people should or shouldn't be coming downtown, But like Jesse said in the last meeting, like the traffic we're looking for is 2 or 3 people in a business at a time. Like for most businesses downtown East Lansing, that's not going to keep the lights on long term. And so it's kind of like you're fighting against one another. You're advertising to come, but at the same time you're saying, but don't come too many of you and don't come all at the same time. Like, and I'm not saying that that's not the right approach to have, but just to advertise when you're also advertising the opposite seems difficult. And I had brought up to Amy on the phone, and I had thought about this since our last meeting. If like there are any other ways that we can support businesses. I know I mentioned like grants before, and we kind of talked about how that isn't necessarily the most effective for keeping businesses alive, because you could be saving people on their last leg that are going to fall off anyway. But I had mentioned to Amy, like, I know that we had the before I was on the board, a downtown East Lansing like gift card program. And I know we always kind of circle back to it. And it's kind of really expensive, I believe, to kind of get started and whatever. But if what the idea is that we really don't want mass people downtown still, and it's, you know, we're trying to keep things even keeled down there, that the best way to provide cash for businesses, I mean, there's probably a lot of other ways, but one of the ways would be to look into creating that type of a program where people could say, I want to give $500 to downtown businesses, and I'm not going to go there right now, but I want to buy a gift card that then in 6 months or at Christmas, I can do my Christmas shopping or whatever. Like that was something I thought about since the last meeting as something that we could possibly use a large sum of money that we don't normally have to kind of figure out if we could get something like that going again, or something like that that could directly drive profits, funnel profits directly to businesses. I don't know, but I was just bringing it up because some of Tom's concerns are similar concerns that I've had over the past couple months. Adam, yeah, go ahead, you talk.
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious where the misperception is that the city is advertising not to come downtown.
I can, since I brought that up, I'll answer that. You know, I'm not saying that the city is saying don't come downtown, but you know, there is an encouraged quarantine for the vast majority of our customers, and there is a required quarantine for a smaller subset of that. So you know, and I realize that is not, that's coming from the health department, that's not coming from the city, but I also understand that, you know, the city, the university, the county, and in fact the downtown businesses, we're all in this together. So there is a general consensus that, you know, people should be quarantining right now, or particularly the core demographic that we cater to. That's where that came from.
Okay, yeah, we definitely are not advocating for people not to visit downtown. The measures that have been put in place are actually what are going to help people and help the businesses, help generate revenue. I understand the mandatory quarantine may not get people to drive that foot traffic, but this is a different time. This is where we have to adapt, and we got to figure out how can you reach those customers that are they're in quarantine.
Sure.
And also, this is going to be going on throughout 2021.
Sure.
We got to figure out ways to generate revenue. We got to continue to implement measures that are going to keep people safe, so that they not are only safer, but feel safer to visit downtown. And on top of that, you bring up a good point. Yeah, a lot of your customer base are MSU students. But again, different times that we really got to explore options and strategies. How can we go beyond the student population and diversify a customer base? Because we don't know what the next few years are going to look like, how all this is going to change. And so in the meantime, we want to develop strategies to get the permanent residents engaged in our local economy as well.
Right. So, and you know, to be clear, I'm not suggesting that, like, you know, that this is that, you know, the recommended quarantine for all Michigan State students is the wrong approach. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm acknowledging fully that this is what is being recommended, that people not leave their house. That is what is being recommended. And so that is what we're up against. And, you know, no amount of advertising or marketing is going to make people, or should make people break that. And yeah, we can talk about the over 25, we'll say, demographic. We've been talking about that for years. We've been talking about trying to get over 25 people downtown for, as long as I've been, since I've been in East Lansing. That's been a point of discussion, and it's a worthy one. But I don't know if, right now, any sort of marketing would see any sort of return on investment to target the demographic that is more likely to be affected adversely health-wise to the COVID pandemic. I just don't see how that is going to, that an ad campaign at this point would have any sort of return on investment in that perspective.
So
Yeah, I understand that and respect that, but I do encourage you to read some of the data that Amy's provided. Times are changing. People want to know what people are doing, what businesses are doing, what cities are doing to keep them safe during this time. And if that information is not available to them, you're right. They're not going to come downtown. Personally, if I don't know what a business is doing to keep me safe to visit that business, I'm not going to go to that business. And so all these, the livelihood of the business owners, you guys, is so interconnected and dependent on public health right now. And so that's why we're focused on marketing, not only marketing, but implementing measures to keep people safe. And so the more you can communicate those measures you're taking, the more comfortable people are going to be to come visit and come venture out. I think right now is a great opportunity for us to really start engaging those 25 and over. That it's a good opportunity to do so, but we can't do that if we're not taking certain measures to keep people safe and then communicating what those measures are that we've taken.
So I think, though, we also have to be, I'm never going to say don't advertise to the older population, the above 24, 25, whatever population. I think that we should always continue to diversify our customer base in downtown East Lansing, because I believe that we have a lot to offer down there. The reality is that we've been struggling to do that pre-COVID. That's something that we have, before you've been a part of the city, has been a long-standing, almost every single meeting, not discussing how we can advertise or grow the businesses to the college market, but how we can advertise and grow the businesses to the older market. And it's been a struggle. So I'm not disagreeing about any of that. It's just more like, are those people that were not willing to come downtown to East Lansing pre-COVID, we couldn't convince them to come here then. Like people that live in Lansing, Okemos, Hazlitt, we couldn't convince them when they had no qualms about whether it was safe or not. We couldn't convince them to come now. That by just putting out advertising saying, we're safe, please come, that they're going to be like magically like, I want to go downtown East. That's, I think, is kind of the struggle as a business owner. I think, Tom, this is kind of what he's saying too, is like, we have always relied on the basis of our business being something else because we've struggled to get other business, not for lack of effort. Yeah. And so it just seems odd that now magically, if we just say we're safe, they're going to come when they weren't going to come before. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, definitely. But it's not a matter of just saying you're safe. It's a matter of marketing and promoting the outdoor dining that we had going on, the winter market that we're planning, the public reactivation and enhancement of public spaces. And all that is meant to drive foot traffic in a sustainable way and not have a big mass gathering event. It's meant to drive foot traffic to increase revenues for the downtown businesses.
It feels like that, all good points. It feels like, let me speak as an old guy, even though I'm a very young old guy. So I think it feels like it would be, I'm kind of in favor of the media buy. It feels like we should be ready and should still be on people's mind, even though they feel like it's better to be locked down. One by one, folks are going to change their viewpoint. And we'll go into fall, we'll still have outdoor dining. So my wife and I mean, we've ventured out maybe 4 times for outdoor dining. And once you stick your toe in that water, you say, oh, you know, there's wind blowing. We learned that COVID it's safer outdoors. Oh, look at the restaurants are at 25% capacity or whatever. Yeah, there's people that are here, but they're pretty far away. And so as people come and learn this new reality, they're going to get more comfortable going out. Then the cold weather hits. Now we got the question, like last week, it hit up here earlier. So we ventured indoors. Same thing. People were far apart. The staff was masked up. We know that the owners are being extremely careful. So we kind of felt comfortable with the practice of that particular restaurant, if you will, or business. So we're exploring one by one. I just think there are things we could offer, and then when people do make that first venture out, hopefully they come dancing because they know it's safe. We have our old and true friends. I mean, maybe restaurants are the first line of defense to get foot traffic going. We've got old, tried and true bars and restaurants and businesses, and then we've got new ones to advertise. But, you know, come down with the old, with the businesses you know and love, and look at these new exciting ones too. And then we tell them, you know, everything's 25% capacity, and we're safe, we're distanced. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, feels like we'd ought to do something. Anyway, I'll shut up. I said enough.
Can I jump in on that and kind of add to that point? I think, first of all, I think we have to do something. I think we've got businesses downtown that are feeling abandoned by the institutions that should be supporting them, and they want to see the city working on their behalf. So I think just in terms of keeping our trust with our business residents, I think we have to be active. I also want to point out that there's already been grumblings within the adult community of East Lansing that if there is going to be, I think this happened, there was a message posted to the public response message board the day after MSU announced that they were going to be doing remote classes. And the theme was essentially, maybe this is the year that the grown-ups can have fun downtown. So I think in that sense, we have, I don't want to call it an opportunity because I don't want to imply that there's anything against COVID, because obviously it's been terrible for all of us. But from my perspective, the major stumbling block to attracting the 25 and up crowd to downtown is that they don't like to hang out in crowds of drunk students. So if the drunk students are quarantined, then that actually leaves a path open for exactly the type of people that we have been trying to forge a relationship with our downtown businesses. And I think that we also have, you know, I can't believe that I'm promoting the idea of this functional fear idea, because it, you know, fear as an advertising tactic seems terrible. But we have a very educated population. Many of our older adults are associated with the university, and they're simply not going to believe the message that downtown is safe because they're being driven by science. They're seeing the climb in numbers unless we can demonstrate that to them. And so I think highlighting things like the fact that we did not have a community spread over the summer because the businesses and the residents were complying with a certain measure of safety, that's important. Talking about the way that the businesses are protecting their employees and also their customers, that's important. These are messages that need to be communicated out to the public so that they understand the context in which they can support their downtown businesses. Maybe they're not ready to come in. Maybe they want to do curbside pickup. Maybe they want to do delivery. I have had people order locally for mail order, even though I can drive their package to their porch, and frankly, sometimes I do, because they want to support the downtown businesses. But unless they know how to do that, they're not going to be able to. So I was very compelled by this idea of telling business stories, creating a personal connection with the owners, with the business identity, really following the data and digging in terms of safety and community spread. And then most importantly, really communicating out to our residents how they can support the businesses because they want to, they just don't know how to. So I am, obviously, I think you can tell from my comments, I'm pretty in favor of Piper and Gold's presentation. And if we're ready for a motion, I would make that motion. But if we're still discussing, then I will sit back and wait until the time is right.
I'll support that motion.
I'll make a comment. Tom, I appreciate that you're back because it's, always good to hear more voices. And I think, we've been struggling with this idea of what to do for, months now as a board. And, we've gone back and forth. We've had good discussions, different viewpoints. My viewpoint has always been, to be honest, we did want to sit and wait. At the same point, we recognize that sitting and waiting is not necessarily going to solve any problems either. Because it is going to be a long haul, and we do have a budget to spend on very specific things, and we have discussed other options. It seems like our main goal is to market the downtown. Now, I do agree with you on one thing, Tom, and that's marketing the downtown in the right way that gets people to act in a way we want. We've then leaned in on kind of what Jesse was just saying, and what I think we've been in favor of, and that's just communicating how people can interact with the downtown in today's times, which they don't understand, they don't know. All they're getting now is that negative context of student-related, cases increasing. If that's all they're hearing from news outlets or from the health department, that's all they're going to get and ingest. If we don't give them something else, another perspective, more context about the business's perspective, what they're doing. I do think there's two things. I work in a corporate workplace, right? And we have people going into their offices to work. People are still coming in to visit. At the end of the day, people are moving back into on-site work environments. People are moving back into those things. So people are still going out to an extent. They're being forced to in some cases. So I really think that ignoring the fact that, people want to engage in some way, we just need to communicate how. And I do think we're missing an opportunity if we don't in some way engage with a marketing campaign. Now, I'm not saying that I know exactly what that voice needs to be, but I do think it needs to be a campaign that goes with how do you interact with us? Maybe it's all online. Maybe it's saying, hey, here's how you order from this business online, and here's a discount sale for it. Or here's how you do curbside on this business because they offer it on these days of the week and it's free. How does the city then enter into making it easy for people to do it? I think all of those things are things we're not communicating, and the health department's not going to communicate it. The city's trying to communicate it, but we are one of the mechanisms that they do that through. So if we don't spend it on some kind of marketing campaign, we've discussed grants, giving money away to businesses, right? Which again, feasibility, you got 190 businesses, right? How are you going to feasibly spend $5,000 and split it and make it fair and even impact the bottom dollar on their sales or their expenses? You're just not. So we don't know what to do with the budget if we don't do it with marketing. And we can't have Amy all day writing up posts on Facebook and use that as our marketing dollars. We have to somehow figure out how do we use this money, who can do it the best, and who can tell our story, even if our story is, the data, how to interact with the businesses, and what the business story is. So I'm also probably in favor of Piper and Gold, just based on I do like transparency with the public is key. So I think data-driven information is best. I think that that's what will help balance out or put into context maybe some of the rising cases, is by giving some other data that is in line with that and showing that data.
Oh,
and then
please, Weston crying.
What was that?
Can we go listen real quick? Oh, sorry.
Oh, so whether or not love Zoom, whether or not that exposure to our context for how a business is reacting to that is the missing side of the story. I mean, I read it every day and I don't hear anything about how the downtown businesses are doing or what practices they have. And that is a big problem when that's why people are afraid to come downtown. That's why they're not. Even students, they don't know. Now it's students, different category, different in perception. And Tom, you probably, in a unique case, like you thrive on business from students. And that I think maybe didn't resonate enough, Adam, in terms of the business mechanism that he has, pivoting to 25 and up may not help. But I agree with you, Tom. If we need to market somehow to, the older generation of MSU students that are, outside of this market, that's a fantastic idea. And I think that a marketing campaign like Piper and Gold, we can tell that story to those people through social media, through some other avenue to say, hey, come and shop downtown, buy a gift card, shop online. But someone's got to do it. And that's my that's why we got the proposals going. But my thoughts.
And I just had one more thing. Tom, all the other business owners on the line, I'm working tirelessly, just researching, just trying to find the best approach here within the capacity we have to help. We're here to help, and we're applying the research, the best practices that are out there. There's no guarantee any of this will work, but this is the best approach that we're coming up with at the time. And it's coming from a very genuine place where we're here to help. And the last thing we want to do is lead any business owner down the wrong path or implement a program that's not going to benefit them. And so,
sure. And to be clear, like I'm not doubting anybody's intention. Like
I didn't think you were. I just want to make that really clear. Like we're not just proposing these things blind and in a
sure,
blind
no.
manner.
And you know, this is I've been on the DMB for 4 or 5 years now. This is the first time I have ever had any opposition to any marketing campaign ever. I think on the whole they're valuable. I think in this case I just don't see the opportunity. I just do not see. You know, yes, you know, there might be a marginal increase in over 25 traffic, but you know, and you know, Justin, your point should be brought to light. Like, you know, my business, it is entirely student based. We get 0% comes from anybody other than Michigan State students, and I'm really not biasing, or at least I'm trying not to bias my opinion based on that. You know, this is not about what would or would not help my business. I mean, we're already past our selling point at this point. But the vast majority of the businesses downtown, you know, we're focused. The lion's share of our business has always been students. And again, not to belabor the point, I don't see the return on investment on this type of advertising campaign at this point. I think, you know, if we, you know, waiting for at least the quarantine to end, at that point, it might be worthwhile. You know, spending it in a different way might be worthwhile, but this I just don't see the value in, and I'll let my opinion rest there.
Okay, can anybody hear me at all?
Yes, Ray, we can.
Hello. Good, okay. Well, I've been listening to a lot of this, and everybody's making a lot of sense. Unfortunately, as a business person, we're not making a lot of dollars. We need to try to figure out what to do. I think both of the promotions seem to be good, and you know, they're well-meaning. I think that they either of them would be a good choice. But we have all this money that we should be trying to do something with, and I feel that at least we can to try to get people coming in downtown. Either way or any way is not going to be easy. If we wait and just let the money sit there, that's not going to help anything either, because people eventually will say, "Oh well, what is East Lansing still open?" So mentioning at least that we are here doing focused positions on individual businesses, I think will be an asset. There's, you know, we've been in business 50 years, but that doesn't mean that we can last another 50 weeks. And towns have got to be in the same position. Trying to reach older people is not necessarily the answer. Trying to reach the students, well, if they're quarantined, they're not going to be coming in either. So, but I would at least at this point, since we've got a motion, I would go with Piper and Gold, and let's get going and do something at least. Try to we've collected all this money from other people. Let's try to spend it, and at least to see what we can do to try to get some people coming into town. So that's my energetic, I don't know, rebuttal, agreement, whatever you want to call it.
I just want to jump in really quick. I feel like I might have hurt Adam's feelings when I said that the downtown businesses were feeling abandoned. Adam, I really appreciate you, and
no. I didn't take that personally at all. I would feel abandoned if I was a downtown business owner. I want to help correct that.
I know you're working your butt off, so I just wanted to let you know that we noticed
Appreciate
it.
that. Yeah, I didn't take any offense to that at all. Thank you, though.
Are there any I'm just going to bring it out because we talked about it week after week, but Tom, you're new to the conversation and you brought up good points. So, I mean, if there are and people have mentioned, you know, could we spend it differently? Is there an alternative that is viable today that's open for discussion as a you know, in opposition to going through a marketing campaign? Which, granted, I think even if we choose one of these, you know, people to go with, the companies to go with, I don't know if that locks us into what they presented as a campaign necessarily, but I think, you know, whether or not it spoke to maybe your sensibilities of how you might want to reach out to people in general, I think that's how I'm looking at my decision at least. But if we needed to pivot, either way, this comes down to communication, and I don't know how we don't communicate with people. And if we extend it to when the quarantine's over, I just don't know that that's going to be a feasible time frame. It's just not. It's not going to happen. We have no idea what's going to happen 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now. And if we sit on not communicating for months, you're going to drive, I think, like just uncertainty among people. So I would vote for just communication overall, which is I think what we're asking for here. But
Yeah,
I think, Jesse, you already proposed it, and Jim, I think you already motioned it, seconded through. So does that just go for a roll call, Amy?
That's correct. Yes, we can do a roll call vote if the chair's feeling good that discussion has now ended. Everyone's good with discussion. Yes. And so the motion right now is to enter into a contract agreement with Piper and Gold. I might add the caveat of if board members are supportive of not to exceed $10,000 so that there's a baseline then that we can work with them. I certainly think that either firm or both firms would be willing to further discuss content. Is that amenable to everyone? And I can take a roll call vote. Okay. Crouch.
No.
Houston.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Quinn.
Yes.
Muth.
No.
Greg.
Yes.
Croom.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-2. Okay.
Hey, I really appreciate everybody's viewpoint. I just want to say that before I sign off.
Yep.
Nice to have an open discussion.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a important thing to talk about, and yeah, I'm glad we discussed it.
And I would like to interject that, you know, to kind of everybody's, to all board members' points, you know, we do have funds. I think that everybody here, you know, you're all so gracious of your time and your talents. You know, we are probably likely, you know, we've talked in the past and we'll talk at the next meeting about, like, for example, virtual Halloween events and things. So there is money. I just want to make that clear to everybody that there is going to be money, you know, $30,000 to $40,000 more that, you know, we can still tap into. You know, we had a game plan, sure. But when we worked on the budget, we never foresaw COVID coming. So I think that there's lots of ways that we can try to creatively, you know, continue to work together. And sort of on that note, I did want to point out, I know that she introduced herself via email, but Gabby Vizzacaro is one of our new Downtown Management Board intern coordinators. She's extremely talented. She is a senior at Michigan State. It sounds like she's going to graduate soon. So, but we're going to keep her around for a while. And she is here to help. She's already been great. And I wanted to formally introduce you guys. You're going to see her at future meetings. And Gabby, I don't know if you want to say anything, but.
Yeah, hello. I'm excited to be here, excited to meet all of you. I love the East Lansing area, and I really wanted to get involved with Amy and the city and really just move forward with what we've got going here. Thank you for your points today, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other. So yeah, just thank you for having me.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I have a question. When is our next meeting? Is it in 2 weeks?
Our next meeting is in 2 weeks. That is correct. So
okay.
Our next meeting will be October. I'm just confirming. Yes, it will be October 6th.
Okay. And so then would the idea for the next meeting be for the contract to be entered into, and then are they going to come to us? Would the idea be that Piper and Gold comes to us kind of with a step-by-step process that then we discuss, or is it just let them run with $10,000?
Yeah, I think the intent is if we can do it, we'll try to enter into an executed contract. We'll keep the scope of services vague if amenable to Piper and Gold. But are you asking, Chanel, like, are you asking that I invite Piper and Gold to come to the next meeting and we can hone in on some further?
I mean, it depends on what everybody wants, but I think just to start the campaign, I think it would be beneficial to kind of have some discussion around the specific Zoom with kids, first steps. So I just think it would probably be diligent of us to have kind of a discussion on what the first steps are, if that's going to be, you know, some sort of media campaign, and what specifically. I know that she talked about kind of a major part of it being the fear-based advertising. I have mixed opinions on that, like in terms of, I like the nostalgic fear of losing something. I don't necessarily love the, if you don't follow the rules, it's going to get shut down, because that hasn't really worked with the students for the last 6 months. And so I think it would be just kind of beneficial to discuss kind of the first steps in detail. And then I don't really want to micromanage the entire process, but to make sure that we're all on the same page of what kind of an outline of how that money is going to be spent, and kind of the vision more in depth.
I agree.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Should they come prepared, just out of curiosity? I mean, we'll have a discussion, but maybe come prepared with their projection for what the next step is, so that we're not creating that.
I want them to come and have us be like, I like this, I don't like this, we're thinking, you know, that type of thing, just so that we can feel really good that it's exactly the direction that we want to go.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's great.
Kate, I've unmuted you. Is that amenable to you? I think it is. Will that work in your timeline if we have a meeting in 2 weeks and you or Hillary come?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I'm in the middle of kid pickup, so I feel you on the kids on Zoom game. But yeah, I wholeheartely agree with that approach. And one of the things I'll just share with you outside of the 5-minute time frame, Tom, I share many of your same concerns and fears, and in the preparatory process and discussing with, you know, the process and everything, one of the things that I repeatedly said was, if all folks want to do is drive people to downtown East Lansing, like, ethically, we can't be a part of that, because we have to, like, this has to, at the end of the day, be about safety, and public health is economic development right now. So I just want to reassure you guys that we're very cognizant and mindful of that. We actually work with the Michigan Public Health Institute, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ingham County Health Department as clients. So our immersion in COVID land has been intense, and as a small business owner, terrifying. So we hear you. And I think that attending the next board meeting will give us an opportunity to have a really valuable conversation about how to balance, since there are different perspectives and opinions, how to balance that in the messaging. But I also am very inspired and supportive of this notion of, like, we're here for you, you be here for us. And ways that people can continue to support downtown East Lansing businesses without necessarily physically being there, you know, the online orders, promoting curbside and pickup and things like that. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and that next meeting will give us an opportunity to flesh that out, to make sure that it's incorporated in a way that feels both socially responsible and acknowledges the survival fears that you have.
sorry, I was on mute. So Piper and Gold will join us for our next meeting in 2 weeks. I will send out invitations. And unless there's anything else for the good of the order, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Crouch.
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Quinn.
Yes.
Muth.
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
Croom.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, all, thank you very much for your time, especially on this Friday afternoon. And I look forward to seeing everybody in October.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.